Welcome back, Chelsea fans, to another episode of the London is Blue podcast, your home for all things Chelsea FC. Nick, Dan, and myself cover all the match reviews from the latest Chelsea matches. We cover the team news and even throw you some exclusive interviews. Thank you already for being an awesome listener, and you know what? Let's jump right in. All right, here we are, Chelsea fans, with part 2 of the London is Blue podcast this week. We have the entire crew on our side back. That is right, Dan, Nick, and Mike joining us. Welcome. And obviously, he's going to stay, right? I mean, Chidge was never going to not stay for part 2. Just, loves us way too much. Chidge, welcome back.
Well, and you did pay me enough, Brandon.
It's love and money are interchangeable sometimes.
It's good to be here.
So this episode, obviously, we are going to be running through all of your questions on social media. If you want to get involved with this part of the episode of our podcast every week, just tweet at us, Instagram us, Facebook us, email us, Patreon. You get priority to get your questions in. So again, so many different ways to get your questions. We love them all and try to answer as many as we can. But before we get into it, again, Nick, please run the lovely people through our December to January trip to London to go to Stamford Bridge and watch Chelsea play live in person.
Yeah, and in addition to, hopefully having more than just one beer with our good friend Chidge. I was actually thinking the other day about our post-Tottenham trip last year or in April, I guess. I mean, it feels like last year. And how drunk we got after that game at the Atlas. I mean, my God. That was fun. You could possibly do that again with us in December. So right after Christmas in the U.S., and so we're looking at the 28th through January 2nd, Palace away on the 29th, Southampton at home on New Year's Day. We will most likely all go out for New Year's Eve in London and tie one on. What is included in this trip is your hotel and all of your accommodations there, match tickets, which are kind of hard to come by, especially for away matches. So we got those handled. Some sort of live show event. We always do a live podcast when we're over there. We will continue to do that. Plenty of other goodies. Plus, it's New Year's in London. It's going to be incredible. Any special requests, if you need to get on the payment plan that XL Tours has offered to split up the payments a little bit, we totally get that and want to be respectful of your money. So just DM us, email us, let us know if you have any questions. Brandon, anything else to add?
No, I mean, it's if you want to get into exclusive New Year's Eve parties at La Casa de Chidge, or if you want to go to concerts or whatever it may be, XL Tours can hook you up. Or if you just want to slum around with us, that's cool too, because that's what we'll be doing, is living it up pre-Southampton the night before. But I guess another thing I want to bring in before we get to the social media questions is, in case you don't know, Chidge here is actually the chairman of the Chelsea Supporters Trust, and we were talking with him quite a bit, before the call, before we went live, and talking about that and everything. So I guess, Chidge, we just want to kind of give you a moment now that you can talk about what the Chelsea Supporters Trust is doing, kind of maybe where you're at with a lot of kind of weird things going on with the club right now, maybe potential stadium redevelopment, the TV situation, just kind of all the things, and then maybe general kind of ways to get involved for international fans.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, I presume I presume the listeners kind of know what it's about, but I mean, we started in about 2012, 2013. To form the trust, which really is a vehicle for, supporters anywhere in the world, really. It's not just about match-going supporters, although obviously a lot of the main thrust and focus is on the match-going support. But it's a way and a vehicle for Chelsea supporters all over the world to, get their voice heard by the club. In other words, things that piss us off, that we, think we could be looked after better, treated better, all sorts of things. Because we're a democratic organisation, in other words, we're membership driven. If you're a member of the trust, it entitles you to vote at our elections. It entitles you to, basically vote a new board in every year, which is what's just happened in August. It enables you to vote on the motions, which are basically kind of our strategy and policy document for the year ahead. So it's like, what is it we want to achieve in these kind of areas? And those areas break down into things like, huge supporter issues like ticket prices, safe standing, atmosphere, kick-off times, being able to meet with a safety advisory group, which is the thing that controls all the policing around the ground, being looked after when we go away in Europe and not being, beaten around the head by violent police in Spain. All these, really important stuff for supporters. And also, concerns that you have if you can't go to the game. So, we've got a very good support and following, particularly in the States, from a lot of the Chelsea in America guys. So you have your own concerns. If you can't get to a game, how do you get to a game? If you want to get tickets, how do you get tickets? If you want to buy merchandise, how can you do that? And if you want to get access to Chelsea TV. So, it's not just about the match-going support, though the main thrust of it is on that. Anyway, we had our annual general meeting in August. We had all of the motions passed. I haven't actually released this information yet, but that's because I've been away. But all the motions, there are 17 of them, have been passed almost unanimously. I mean, most get in the 90%, so we get a lot of support for them. They'll be publicised on our website, which is chelseasupporterstrust.com, very shortly. The new board has been voted in. We've got our first meeting of the new board this Tuesday, so we'll be, there'll be 9 board members. Some of them are new, some of them are old faces that you'll know, and we'll probably co-opt a few people as well. The next big thing that's coming out for us is really releasing the results of we used to call it the members survey, because it used to just be the members that would fill it in, but now we've opened it up because we want to get as many voices heard as possible. So it's now our annual survey. The results of that will be coming out within the next month. We will take that to the club, and again, we build it around people's concerns with the stadium, the idea of a temporary stadium when that was still kind of up in the air, ticketing, loyalty points, you name it, all that kind of stuff. People respond very well, and we take our report of the results to the club and say that this is what's grinding Chelsea supporters' gears. What are you going to do about it? And we held that with, usually Bruce Buck is there, who's the chairman of the club. You quite often get a few other board members there as well. So, it's good access, it's good representative work that we do on supporters' behalf. Other than that, we'll have special general meetings during the year. We usually have 2 or 3. There'll be one coming up, hopefully, kind of November time would be my guess. And we also, and this is very important actually, we do a lot of really good work with, other Premier League club trusts. So you kind of have to bite your tongue a bit and get on with people from the Spurs Trust and the Arsenal Trust and the Man United Trust. But, at the end of the day, we're all football supporters, and we all suffer the same bullshit that we get thrust in our face from the Premier League and modern football and clubs every day of the week. Tim Rolls, who was the chairman before me, does great work on the kickoff times and the fixture scheduling, and Tim's brilliant at creating spreadsheets and stuff like that. He should have been an Arsenal fan, really, bless him. But anyway, he's really good. He's really good at that, and he's we get meetings collectively with the Football Supporters Federation and Supporters Direct and all the other Premier League trusts, where we, basically when we combine together and we speak with one voice, we get far more, achieved. So the progress on safe standing this year has really come out of that. The cheaper away tickets, they're now capped at 30 quid a ticket. That came as a direct result of our campaigning with these other groups. But we also get 2 face-to-face meetings. So a representative from every trust. I'll be representing Chelsea as the Chelsea Supporters Trust in October, and I will be sitting around a table with the likes of Richard Scudamore, Bill Bush, the broadcasters, and all those people to say, look, stop trying to ruin the game and mug us off, basically, in the vernacular. But, they're quite high-level senior meetings, and it's good to get supporters, not just of Chelsea, but all football supporters represented at these meetings. It's hard. It's like pushing a boulder up a hill. They have all the power and they don't have to listen, but at least we do our best to try and get those messages across and hopefully get things changed. So that's what we're up to. Any questions, boys?
Love it. Obviously, we're members. We try to get involved as much as we can. I mean, the biggest thing is tickets. That's what pretty much 90% of international fans want. So they are a good way to kind of, go through that channel as well. It's just easier if you've never done the process. I would say go through Chelsea in America or Chelsea Supporters Trust, because they just know what they're talking about. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into some questions.
Well, before
right
you
off
do
the
that,
bat.
I should just give the shout out to ChelseaSupportersTrust.com. All right?
Yes.
That's where you can get all the information. If you want to join, it's fairly easy. There's a great big button on the front that says join here. If you want to be a full voting member, which means you can vote in the elections, and I mean, I know that if you're over in the States, it's hard for you to come to meetings, but you'd be entitled to do that. You pay you pay £5, £5. What's that? About $7-8 now.
Yeah,
Anyway.
roughly.
Yeah, so it's about £5 a year. You get a nice, shiny, lovely, totally unique Chelsea Supporters Trust pin badge, which is lovely. And other than that, you can follow. Oh, you don't have to. I mean, if you don't want to, sign up as a voting member, you can just sign up for free and still be a member, and you get all of the newsletters, all of the stuff that we send out, and all the communiques, and you can get to fill in the survey, of course, as well. And follow them at Chelsea S Trust on Twitter.
Yeah, we try to retweet all of the notices and meetings just for everyone out there as well. But yeah, it's well worth your time to pay attention to, even for you international fans such as ourselves. All right, so the first one right off the bat, Mike bringing in heavy hitters. How do we define a successful season? At Tosser of Coin saying 7 games in, how do you guys define a successful season? He says top 3, delicious attacking football and extensions for Hazard and Conte. What do you think, Mike?
I'm going to say top 4, some kind of silverware to get that hoodoo off of Sarri and put that in the past. As far as extensions, I'm not going to worry about that. It's going to resolve how it is. But if we're not back in Champions League football at the end of the season, I think it will be very disappointing.
We have another tweet from at smooth_1 saying, this game showed Chelsea are ahead of schedule and positive despite dropping 2 points. As such, are Chelsea even though it's early, are Chelsea a top 4 team? I don't know. I mean, Nick is the one in our group who didn't expect Chelsea to be top 4. That's not a slight. No. That's not a slight against you. It's more of saying, I want a quick update, just a little temperature pulse to see kind of what are you thinking now, based on what you thought might happen at the beginning of the season.
I think we're ahead of schedule. I mean, I think we all at some level expected this experiment to not really take full shape until November, December. Maybe I'm speaking out of turn there, but I think certainly given the lack of a preseason that Maurizio had to develop these players and develop his system and to understand the strength of his entire squad, which does take time. I think that we're way ahead of where I thought we'd be, and so I feel really great about that. I mean, if you look at the table though, the top 5 is all separated by like 4 total points. So by no means are we cemented to be third, or top 4 all year. We're going to have to, continue to improve and play even better attacking football than we have to this point. And certainly some of the gaps that we've, talked about in previous shows this season, like the spacing between our midfield and our defense, all of those things will have to continue to be tightened and adapted and evolved, depending on which opponent we play. I mean, look at the game yesterday, with obviously Liverpool being a much more voracious attacking team than West Ham was against us the previous week. We had to play 2 different styles there, and I think certainly with the amount of space that we saw in attack, with kind of their high line and the way that they play attacking football, we saw some more clear-cut chances. We just have to adapt to play the West Hams of the world who are going to put 10 people behind the ball, and the Liverpools of the world who would much rather have 8 people in our box than the other way around. So, I think Steve is right that we're ahead of schedule, but it's still I think it's a huge question, at least in my mind, Shage, that we are a top 4 team right now.
Well, here's the thing, Nick. I think to be really honest, and this is a trait of other people than Chelsea supporters, I think, but it's always much easier to kind of keep your expectations on a level, isn't it? But the reality is that Sarri is clearly a decent manager, and we've got a decent team, as we've proved over the last kind of 5 years. What happens with us is that they fall out with a manager, and then they just they turn it in. But the reality is they're still good players. I mean, remember, we've won 2 titles, within the last 4 or 5 years. So we know that this lot can do it. We just have to get a manager who can get a tune out of them. And I think something that's really worth talking about actually is over and above the lovely, pretty football that's beloved of people who like to play FIFA. No, I'm just having a bit of a dig, but the reality is that what Sarri's done on a management basis is brilliant, because what he's done is he's got a very, very happy ship there at the moment. He's got a very different style from Conte. There was a wonderful article. I don't know if you guys caught it over here, but if you go into Twitter and it's difficult to find it really, but Phil McNulty, who is a BBC writer on their website, wrote a brilliant article about the impact that Sarri's had. But it basically centres around the fact that he's far more collegiate. He's not a dictator like Conte was. He's clearly the boss, but he'll invite opinion and discussion. He's treating them like adults, basically, not like kids. So, they don't have to be imprisoned in the hotel the night before the match. They can be at home with their family. They get treats like cakes and ice cream at the training ground rather than having ketchup and sugar banned. All these little things might seem like daft things, but they make a big difference. I don't know if any of you guys have ever worked in management, but ultimately it's about getting the best out of your team, and you should do everything you can to do that. And I had a big row on Love Sport Radio this morning. I was doing the paper review, and we were all talking about Mourinho. And, of course, for me, it was very interesting, and for them, very interesting, because, of course, as a Chelsea supporter, I know how it can go very badly wrong with Mourinho, like it is at United at the moment. And I think that with the way that modern football is now, with how wealthy players are, you cannot treat them. And I think actually this is, to be fair, and I know I'm always moaning about under 30-year-olds because I'm such an old git, but I think to under 30-year-olds' credit, they won't put up with the bullshit that I had to when I was their age of 3 bags full, sir, yes sir, no sir. They go, no, fuck that shit, I don't want to do that. And this is what you've got with modern footballers. It's not just about the money, it's an attitude thing. You've got to treat them with respect and a bit of kindness and a bit of humanity. Show them some love. Treat them like adults, give them their head when they need it. Wallop them if they get out of line, absolutely. But treat them with a bit of love and respect. And I think this is what Sarri's doing. And the evidence is there to see. You've got a very happy camp. You've got, if you look at them as a team, clearly they're playing for each other as well as him. And I think this has gone under the radar a bit. The number of times we've come back from being a goal down, that tells me that the spirit in the side is really good and the character is really good too. And if you remember that we moaned so much last season and the season before about we have no leaders in that team, there's not many people saying that at the moment, is there?
Ooh, that's a good shout. Absolutely. And even the response of giving up a late goal yesterday, Saturday now.
Well, they tried to get back into the game, didn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I mean, even Moses, Alonso getting to the byline, we were looking to have a very positive response, and that absolutely would have deflated the team last season, and you potentially concede another to lose all 3 points. So that's a really good shout. Dan, defensive woes, at Taylor_M_ball tweeting us saying midfield was great. Do you think we can get the defense fixed over time? Which is kind of interesting, since the first episode we kind of said the defense was great, actually.
Yeah, it was definitely the best we've seen under Sarri, and I think the one word that I would use to kind of pin back to Chidge's point about Sarri's kind of impact is his humility or graciousness as a person, in the way he operates with people, seems to be getting the most out of everyone, including our defensive players, who have found a way finally to connect with one another, to make the last ditch save, to communicate with one another a little bit better, and this was going to take time to put in place, because again, you've gone from a back three, the past 2 seasons, to a back 4. You've brought Rudiger in as the starting center back next to David Luiz, who had basically taken a full year off of football. You have Alonso is being asked to be a little bit more defensive versus being one of the main attacking options, and you're asking Azpilicueta to continue to play, I think, his 105th out of 106 Premier League matches that he's now started for Chelsea. And that's all incredible stuff, Mike. And I think that this defense has gotten better. We've watched it get better, and I think there is still we have not hit the ceiling for it, which is exciting.
Oh, for sure. And let me just say this: how dare you, sir? After the last three matches, you're looking at a Liverpool side that's averaging 2.5 goals per match, and we play 180 plus minutes, concede 2 goals, 1 wonder strike. The defense right now is not the issue. If we look at West Ham, it's really kind of up top that's the problem. And I listening to the first part, there was a little bit of me that I know that a lot of people were gutted and really felt like we deserved the win, and I somewhat agree. But I think we also, going into that match, 1 goal against Liverpool is not going to be enough to win. And we needed to do better in a couple of the other opportunities that we have. And the one other thing I want to address is, as far as people questioning Kepa, if you go back to September of 2016 and the donkey Jordan Henderson hit another strike just like Sturridge hit, and it looped over he who shall not be named, and it was 4 inches taller than Kepa. And it's almost effectively the same goal. So cut the defense and cut Kepa some slack. They've done a fantastic job, and I don't think anybody was expecting the results that we got in the last 2 matches, if you're going to be 100% honest with yourself. Brandon, where are you at?
Well, true, but I think that imbalance, let's not say that they are impeccable, right? Like, poor chances were given up against Liverpool and West Ham, but of going from a back 5 to a back 4, again, Dan said David Luiz having a year out. I think that with all being said, we should be happy with where we're at, knowing that we have the confidence that it will continue to get better as it has so far this season. So that's the balance of it, right? So it's not perfect, but it's a heck of a lot better than where we thought we'd be, and we are happy with at least where we're at. I mean, you'd made a Liverpool side which were flying high. You silenced the Puskás winner of this last year, which who knows how that happened. But it is what it is. They put in a real shift, and it was great. At VFactor07 says, how good was David Luiz? He's more essential back there than expected, isn't he? Chidge, I know that Clayton was on talking about, or he's actually on Twitter talking about the leadership that David Luiz brought when he came on for Christensen midweek. He essentially came on yelling at every single player on that pitch that it wasn't good enough, and to kind of ramp it up. What do you make of David Luiz, I guess? Especially, to me, it's crazy. He literally sat out an entire season last year, and he doesn't seem to show any signs of rust.
Yeah, but that goes back to what we were saying. I mean, okay. I don't know really why he doesn't show any signs of rust, but, clearly he and Conte just didn't get on. They had a massive, massive falling out. I mean, I think he was reported in the press today saying that he had a couple of offers, and had Conte have stayed, he'd have been off. And this happens. This happens in real life outside of football too. But the only concern I have with David Luiz is that he is now getting on a bit. But of course, the corollary of that is that means that he has all that experience to bring to bear. And I also do think that I'm afraid he still has the odd mad 5 minutes in him. I mean, he gave away a very silly free quick kick just outside of the penalty area yesterday, which could have resulted in a goal. He can get silly yellow cards, and he can switch off at times. But the reality is, and I think this is the trouble with the way that football is viewed these days. It's so big now. It's all over the world. It's 24/7. Everybody's on social media, so everybody looks at football in absolute granular detail. And I think sometimes you can disappear very, very quickly up your own arse. Sometimes you need to take a step back. And the reality is that David Luiz does more good than he does bad. He does much better things over 90 minutes than he does bad things. He is a leader in that team. I think he's always been a leader. And I think he's a hell of a defender. If you don't think David Luiz can defend, then you're nuts. Of course he can bloody defend. But, like most human beings, he will make a mistake now and again. And of course that gets absolutely, highlighted, and suddenly he's crap, which is not true. He's a good player, and we need him.
Chidge, are you saying that Are you saying that footballers are people? Because
well, as my old mate Cheltel would have said, possibly before the greatest fans of the Chelsea FanCast, which is Brandon, Nick, and Dan, and quite possibly Mick. You might not have even been listening then, which is, I know, very sad, but quite possibly true. But my old mate Cheltel used to do this gag on the show. He did the same gag on the show every week, usually. He had about 3 gags, but he did them every week. And one of his favourites was, Northerners are real people with real emotions. And I think you could translate that to football as well. They are, in fact, real people with real emotions.
Yeah, there's still no proof that N'Golo Kante is human. So.
Well, there we go. Yes. Well, there are 2 of him, of course,
We have to clarify as well. And also, guys, come on. World Cup winner, N'Golo Kante. We're getting lazy on that. All right. What about this one from @BrentSaxophone saying, if you had to pick one person other than Eden Hazard that absolutely should not be traded or sold from Chelsea, whom would you choose and why? So, Dan, I'm really interested, obviously, from your take. It's I think I know who it is, maybe young center back, but I could be completely off base with this since you are a Pats fan.
Yeah, well, I think you're going to be a little off base because I think right now, if you were going to say if there's one other player who can't be traded, I think it has to be Jorginho. I think if we're looking at what Sarri does on the pitch and how he needs someone to execute the passing philosophy and recycle the ball appropriately, I think after Eden Hazard, Jorginho is the next most important player to executing that. And I think a lot of other positions, you could rotate someone in, you could bring in a new player, hopefully, maybe a striker, Nick. But I think Jorginho would be the other one I'd slap a no trade clause on, even though he's just come in.
You just reopened the N'Golo Kante debate. We did that last episode.
So everyone knows that N'Golo Kante would be my pick, but I would then, if I had to abstain from choosing him, then I would say Rudiger.
Oh, you bastard.
Yeah, I'm a bastard. That is very true. But I think what Chidge just said about David Luiz is accurate. And I think they, both of these guys possess such different skill set. But what I saw yesterday from Rudiger, and I think it was really important, is that he does not back down from anybody. He doesn't care who you are. He doesn't even care if you're technically, get the better of him on one turn. He will come back at you even harder the next time. And he's still pretty young. I think he's only 26 now, 25.
25.
He has a long way to go, and I think he's going to be absolutely vital for us moving forward.
Yeah, if I can just dovetail into that, Rudiger's my pick as well, and World Cup winner Antonio Rudiger, per se. I think when you watch the ball he cleared off the line from Salah, not only did he clear it off the line, but you watch him make the slide, get back up, and basically chase that ball out of bounds. And at 25, I could fully see him being, or wearing that the captain's armband in the next 3-4 seasons. So that would definitely be my pick.
Chidge, what about you?
That's really good shouts, actually, you lot. I'll give you that. I think Jorginho's a good shout. He's clearly absolutely fundamental to the way that Sarri wants to play. I think Rudiger's an excellent shout. I love Rudiger, but I think, you're right. The fact that he's only 25 or so means that he could be here for a long time. So you wouldn't want to get rid of him. But I'm going to stick with Kante, and I'll explain it thusly. The one thing you don't want to lose. I mean, we teed it up with not wanting to sell Hazard, obviously, because Hazard is one of the best players in the world. Have a look at that team and ask yourself, how many world-class players have we got? And I'll make it very simple for you. We have 2, and the other one is Kante. That's why I wouldn't let him go, because you can't replace world-class players that simply. You really can't. So for me, it would be Kante.
I know, it's a little torn to me. If you take it right now, so like exactly today, Pedro has massive value for the team from a goal-scoring standpoint. You've got a little bit more depth at center back, but you would have a big drop-off if you lost Rudiger. But with Sarri ball, there is only one way to make Sarri ball work right now, and that has been proven with Jorginho. So to me, I would say purely from a manager and a system standpoint, outside of Eden Hazard, Jorginho, if we didn't have him, I have no idea who would do what he does. So that's, I guess, to clarify, this isn't the next best player. This is just purely from an operating on the pitch standpoint. It has to be Jorginho to me.
You say that, Brandon, but that game in midweek against Liverpool in the Carabao Cup when he put Fabregas into that role, we bossed that game until Fabregas ran out of steam, and that's the first start he's made this season, I think. So I think Jorginho is more replaceable than you might think. I mean, I think there's an element to the fact that as we would all do, you go to be a department head of a company. You've got a really tough job. You want to bring one of your own people in, so you've got a bit of a wingman. So I think that, in a sense, that Jorginho is the manager on the pitch. I don't think it's fundamentally just because he's the only one that can play the way that Sarri wants to. And I think Fabregas did an excellent job against Liverpool. So, I mean, I accept that he's getting old and his legs are going, but I think there are other players that can do that.
Hey, fair.
Kante is unique.
True. So, I guess, to be fair, you did have 3 picks. One of them was Jorginho. You just now told me why Jorginho's wrong. In essence, telling yourself why you're wrong.
I always said Kante.
That's fair.
I said
That's
Kante.
True. He was
nailed it to the mark, boys.
It's right. You had your world-class argument, which is hard to argue with. What about Pedro? Are we missing poor little Pedrito? Akshay on Patreon saying, do you think we will see Pedro as the striker sooner than later? We need more goals from other places, and right now he's a fit. He might be our best option till we can add reinforcements. And then at Paretsky8 on Twitter saying, do you think we missed Pedro against Liverpool? I reckon he could have played instead of Moses. That's if we didn't start Willian. Well, obviously, I think, look, Pedro in Liverpool, he was out. He was injured. Getting a knee to the ribs from a goalkeeper does not look pleasant. And I think, obviously, Nick, we all miss Pedro, right? We know Sarri has said he is the best runner off the ball on the team because he gets into positions to score, whereas maybe Willian will spread a team out, to make them kind of stretch wide, even though, by the way, what a ball from David Luiz to Willian over the top, just didn't quite get to it. Another good save.
So tasty.
But yes, obviously that is a unique run for him. More of the time he is out wide and getting to end line, doing sick nasty elasticos to Andrew Robertson with next to no space towards the end of the match, just giving him the see you later. Anyways, if you forgot, we were talking about Pedro and if we missed him.
Man, the longest, bury the lead, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we did miss Pedro yesterday. I mean, flat out. I think, Moses is probably better suited for that wingback role that we saw from him in under Conte, and probably isn't our best, kind of substitute on that right wing. I mean, I think Pedro's probably, if he gets healthy soon, could have a really great season. And I think he allows a little bit more flexibility for Hazard and him to switch sides should one side need a little bit more balance. I think that you saw that a little bit against Liverpool in the Carabao Cup this week. Is Hazard's kind of world class goal that was absolute fire came from the right side because he had kind of overlapped on that side, and I'm wondering if maybe him and Pedro could do a little bit more switching should they play together. So. Long story short, yes, we miss him, and we hope he gets back soon.
Dan, from a scale of 1, I don't miss him, to 10, I can't live without him. Where do you land on the Pedro scale?
I think in comparison to our other options from the right wing or kind of right attacker, it's probably in an 8 range. I mean, I think Willian, is fine. I think that I would rather see Pedro more, and I think we'll all probably be clamoring for some level of Callum Hudson-Odoi or a acquisition within that side. Whether we look at Leon Bailey, who unfortunately had his contract extended, potentially keeping in the family and going after Thorgan Hazard, potentially to balance out the other side of the attack. What's better than one Hazard, 2 Hazards? That area, whether it be Pedro or Willian, is ripe for upgrade. It's getting very aged in comparison, and I say that as someone who is older than both of those individuals that we have currently in that position. But we do need some additional legs and people who can score from that position with a higher level of regularity. And as much as I, am wanting Pedro, I probably would want someone, Brandon, who just can do a little bit more beyond what they both can offer.
Gauntlet thrown, challenge accepted. What about, so, Chage, I guess this kind of goes back to you from Akshay also saying, does Vic bring anything positive as a substitute winger, or is he stopping Hudson-Odoi's progression? Kind of hinted on this in the last episode.
Yeah, look, I think they're very different players, obviously. Hudson-Odoi can play anywhere across the front three, I think. Moses, I think, was brought on Saturday to really shore up the defence and be an outlet. I mean, I had an interesting theory about Moses, which I think we talked about on the FanCast last week, but I think he looks too heavy. He's bulked up a lot, and he doesn't seem to move as freely as he did when he was whizzing up and down the wing for Conte a couple of seasons ago. But the reality is, look, if he's playing as a winger, then his job is to beat players and put a good ball in, and you don't see that enough from him. You really don't. If that's how you're going to play him, I'd much rather see Hudson-Odoi there. If you want to kind of deploy him as a better defensive option than Willian or Pedro, as in he'll track back and make a tackle, then I get that, and that's a tactical substitution. But if you want to, have Moses just playing as a winger, then I think he's keeping Hudson-Odoi out the side, and I think that's nuts.
Callum Hudson-Odoi, he had such a great preseason. Obviously, we just want to see more. I would think that he would be a good runner into space, but look, we're not at training. I'm not going to tell Sarri to do his job. It's just more of an us hoping and praying we get to see more, because we like what we've seen in flashes. All right, the hottest question we've had, saving it to last. Can I get a striker? If you've seen that commercial, can I get a hot tub? Anyone? Obviously not Chidge.
No,
Awesome.
Funnily enough, I haven't. But I do watch a lot of CNN, so I'm disappointed that I haven't. Fake news.
Exactly. Shane on Patreon again saying, how am I supposed to feel about our striker situation? This includes our strikers on loan and youth strikers, and the fact that people will bring up Diego Costa even though he might not even fit well into Sarri's. I'm feeling confused and conflicted. Please help. And then just shout outs because we have so many. JW Jazzy, Andrew _Ishan on Instagram, Shauri Gulati 666, Zueb, M Palladino, David G936, Grand _Master J, and Mox Bubna. Anyways, Mike, start us off with the fact of Giroud and Morata. It's kind of hot and cold right now. Mishi on loan at Valencia, not having the best of time. And then Tammy going on a late loan to Villa. Do any of this combinations of these four strikers solve the problem today?
No, I don't think they do. And I think maybe the question to ask is, what are our expectations of where we want the club to be? If we want just maybe top four, then maybe we can make do. But I think this is the one position that come winter, come summer, Sarri is going to be pushing the hardest to upgrade, because it's a definite need in that position. I have a sneaking suspicion that the reason why we haven't seen Pedro up top as a false nine is that we are trying to either jumpstart Morata's career or at least attract a little bit more value to him in the coming windows. But if we're talking about winning leagues or winning the Champions League, we are not where we need to be.
I thought Morata had a decent cameo yesterday. I mean, it's not the worst thing we've seen out of him, that's for sure. But I don't know. I mean, Nick, from a striking standpoint, like I said, I gave you four names. What are your thoughts and feelings on if any of those combinations can work right now?
I think Giroud's still our best bet. And simply because I think he's the best passer of that group, to be completely honest. I think Chidge's point earlier about him not taking shots unless he's completely open is valid, and we need someone selfish up top who's just going to have a rip every once in a while and be able to give the defense something different to look at. Because right now our strikers outside of Morata's every once in a while kind of pop. I mean, they're not even shooting the ball regularly, which is, it's kind of crazy to talk about. And I'm a person who's, I think historically wanted to give Morata the benefit of the doubt. So I will continue to do that until such a time where I can't handle it anymore. But it's clearly, at least to me, Chidge, I don't know how you feel about it, the Morata thing, it seems mental to me. It seems like he's just had a difficult run of it, and he's just not quite in the right mind state. It's
a real conundrum, isn't it? I mean, I wrote a blog for Football London about this last week, but the Buggers haven't put it up yet, which is really annoying. But, this is, well, that's the way, I write them. It's not my job to put them up, But it was all about this, and I entitled it The Curse of the Chelsea number 9 shirt. Because this is nothing new. Chelsea has this amazing penchant for breaking their transfer fee record on a number 9 who ends up being utterly useless. And you can go back to the 70s to this, let alone the noughties or the 90s or whatever. I'll put the word out there: Joe Allen, Robert Fleck, Chris Sutton, just to name but 3. And I just wonder if it'll ever work with it. On the other hand, I think people are throwing their toys out the pram about Morata, going, "Oh, it's just like Torres all over again." Well, and the truth about Torres was that actually, in the cold light of day, his Chelsea career is not the unmitigated failure that people like to think it was. He did go a hell of a long time without scoring a goal, and he looked like he couldn't, hit a cow's arse with a banjo. All of this is true. But that's not the case for Morata. Morata started his Chelsea career on fire, and we seem to forget that. As I said earlier on, he scored something like 11 goals in 10 games. So we know he can do it. We know he's got the talent and the ability. He then got injured at Christmas. I wonder if he's ever been right physically since. And there's clearly, and this is historical with him, this goes back before he came to Chelsea, he has got a questionable mentality. And, we've been talking all along about what would we do to have a real killer as a striker, a Diego Costa, a Didier Drogba, an Aguero, a Lewandowski, somebody who just, thrives and breathes the oxygen of scoring goals. That would make a huge difference. Frankly, I don't think either of the strikers that we've got at the moment are world class. And I think if we want to win titles and compete in the Champions League, we need a world class striker who's going to score 20 plus goals every season and guarantee you that. And actually, that's always been the case. I mean, you go back to the days of Kerry. I mean, we didn't win much then, but we had a striker who could put 20, 30 goals away a season. Nowadays, if we have that, we win stuff. It's as simple as that. So I hope that Morata does turn it round. I really do. Because, like a lot of supporters, I'm supportive of Chelsea players, but I fear he won't. And to pick up, I think it was, I can't remember if it was Nick or Brandon's point or even Mike's point, but what was really interesting yesterday, and I think this is worth mentioning for your listeners particularly, I get that many of them aren't lucky enough to go. What was really interesting yesterday was that Chelsea supporters in the ground were right. I mean, we got frustrated when he screwed it up, as he quite often does, or falls over. But actually, whenever he did the slightest good thing, we were right behind him and incredibly supportive. And there was a moment, for example, when he lost the ball and he tracked back and he, slid in and won the ball back. And the cheer that went up around the stadium when he did that, he has the support and the backing of Chelsea supporters, as nearly all our players have always done. But whether he can ride this trot of bad form out, get his head together and be the striker we want him to be, I really don't know.
All right. Well, like I said, that is definitely the hottest topic from a Chelsea lineup and kind of squad standpoint that we've gotten. Understandably so, right? I mean, there's no concern or reason why, but it just is the situation we're in. Thankfully, we have gotten goals from other sources. Alonso should be able to get back to the goals at the upcoming weekend, and potentially even Pedro Willian if they get a run in. But before we get into the next two matches that are coming up for Chelsea this week, Nick, I did want to bring you back in to give our friendly listeners here a little inside secret on saving some money.
Correct. 10% off, promo code LondonPod at worldsoccershop.com. We have all recently received our newest Chelsea kits. I myself got a Cesar Azpilicueta pristine yellow kit. Brandon, Mike, and Dan all got their various kits as well. You could save a little bit of money through our promo code, which again is LondonPod, by going to worldsoccershop.com.
It doesn't roll off the tongue as well as 15 minutes could save you 15% or more, but trust me, people, it's better.
Yeah, way better.
All right, so the next match we have up will be Molvidi from Hungary, in case you were unfamiliar. I don't know why you wouldn't be. Europa League at the Bridge this coming Thursday, October 4th. Then quickly followed by Southampton in the Premier League at St. Mary's Stadium on Sunday, October 7th. So again, here's our chance, Chidge. 2 matches in 1 week. Last time it didn't maybe goes well, hence the West Ham game. Had a bit of a delay getting back, so obviously that doesn't help on short rest. But the main questions people have are like from Malu Jedi 1 saying, who would you rest for the midweek match at home for Molvidi?
Well, that's a good question, isn't it? I mean, I had the hump that he picked a really strong team against PAOK, or however you pronounce them. But actually, I think, I mean, to be really honest, I didn't know really anything about them. And I don't know much about this mob either, or Bate Borisov as well. But apparently, PAOK are supposed to be the strongest team other than us in the group. So I think in retrospect, I can see the sense in putting out a fairly strong team against them. Got a win, got a good 3 points or 2 points or whatever they get. So fair enough. Again, I don't know what this lot are like at all, But the reality is that we should be beating comfortably Bate Borisov, Molvidi, and PAOK, either home or away. That's the reality. So I would be more than happy and comfortable for him to put a team out very similar to the one that he put out against Liverpool in midweek. I mean, if we can beat, Liverpool at Anfield with that team, then we should be able to beat Molvidi at home with a similar team 99 times out of 100. So I would certainly rest the likes of Hazard and Kante, possibly, the players that have had, that need a rest really, or need protection, because at the end of the day, 3 points away at Southampton, which is not a walkover, has got to be the priority.
Yeah, I think a thing to keep in mind too is they lost their first Europa League group stage match 2-0 to Bate. So I think we have an opportunity to put the nail in the coffin for their potential European quest. So they might be up for this game a little bit more, but I do think to Chidge's point, we have the talent, we have the capacity, and I think there is an opportunity here to protect some of our players, some of our center backs, or left or right back. If you imagine Zappacosta would be a good shout to start over either Azpilicueta or Alonso. Emerson could get some more opportunity as well. So I would see where we've seen maybe 4 to 5 changes previously. Maybe Sarri can have a little bit more confidence and go up to 5 to 6 changes from our typical lineup.
I mean, just sorry to butt in, but I mean, wouldn't it be great, for example, I mean, Morata starting, I think, would be essential. Again, it's unlike against PAOK, where he again failed to impress, but at home against a shit side, he should be able to score a goal, and that'd be great for his confidence. Let's give Willian a rest as well. Pedro might not be fit, so let's give him some more time. Put Hudson-Odoi on there. Put Moses on the other side. I mean, I don't think. I mean, I think actually what Sarri did that was really smart against Liverpool in midweek was to start with like a dirt trackers team, bar a couple of honourable exceptions. But he had Kante and he had Hazard on the bench, and they made a massive difference, clearly, when they came on. In fact, one could argue we might not have won that game had they not come on. So, I mean, I think you can have the safety in numbers on the bench, but actually start with I suppose, what we'll call it a weakened team. Should be good enough to beat this lot.
I'd hope so, right? And bring in the changes. It's kind of those the first match is like, hey, let's put a strong lineup out. Let's get the points on the board. Essentially just create a solid foundation for the rest of us so we can rotate. But we talk about minutes, right? We need quality minutes, not just the quantity of minutes. If people are coming on when matches are sealed and it's not competitive, or, we've already qualified, so it doesn't really mean anything other than pride for them. Like, we got to take care of business and get them quality competitive minutes. So, again, I think we'll just all have to wait and see how it goes. Well, again, we're learning about Maurizio, right? We're learning if he rotates, how he rotates, and kind of his philosophy on that. So it's hard to make those predictions because I think we really don't know. This is only the second or third kind of opportunity like this. So and then obviously looking ahead to Saints, they're on a bit of a rough patch recently, losing to Wolves, Liverpool, drawing Brighton, beating Palace, and losing to Leicester. Again, away at St. Mary's Stadium, but the way Chelsea are playing, and I believe there's even talks about Claude Puel. No, he's at Leicester. Who's Southampton's manager these days? Is it still Mark Hughes?
Yep.
Sparky?
Yep.
I don't think you like him very much, Chidge. Does my memory serve
No,
you right?
God, no, far from it. I love Sparky. I mean, I loved him, as a Chelsea player. He was absolutely fantastic, and I've got no problem with him at all. I mean, I don't think I would have quite gone as far as, Marco, for example, quite often when we would lose a manager would always be, carrying the banner for Mark Hughes to be a Chelsea manager. He's a Chelsea supporter.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, not Marco, Mark Hughes.
Yes, Hughes as well.
I've got a lot of time on a soft spot for Sparky, but I think he's got this bizarre record. I'm pretty sure that as a manager he's never beaten Chelsea. That's one for the statos to go and dig out. I've got a hunch that might be true. He'll be up for it. There's no doubt about it. But I mean, the stats and the track record say that we should win that game.
Yeah, I think they're in about 15th place right now, so not going as swimmingly as they might want. But look, gentlemen, Nick, Dan, this is definitely a path we've tripped up before. I don't know. Do you have, I guess, Nick, thinking that we're doing another Thursday, Sunday, thankfully this time at Stamford Bridge midweek, any kind of cautionary warnings heading into this week?
Just if we take the Paok West Ham results into account, I mean, I think this team is still not deep enough to particularly show out for 2 games in 3 days. I think we still have to be realistic about that. My hope is, and what I think is going to happen, is that Maurizio's taking the Europa League very seriously, as he should, and he really wants to put the group to bed ASAP, so that perhaps in the later rounds where we've already secured kind of top of the group, that he can really rest some players. But I think it's going to be really the struggle is that we're going to have a home match and hopefully an easy walkthrough, and then we have to go down to St. Mary's, and that's a place where typically we have not played our best. I think you just have to remember the epic comeback from last year, and think about how we played the first 60 minutes of that match. And Southampton as a squad haven't changed tremendously since then, Mike. So this is it's a big opportunity to continue our record in the Premier League and gain maximum points.
Yeah, I look at it. I think we'll see 5 changes for the Europa League match. I think hopefully Sarri gives some, he rewards some of the hard work from the younger players, and let them get, especially in Ampadu, give them some game time. And I think we'll take care of business on the weekend. I'm confident in these matches. I feel like, unlike other squads in the past, we seem to be taking the smaller games a little bit more seriously. And I think for me, the most important thing is keeping Kovacic healthy, because everyone talks about Jorginho being sorry ball, but I think when you look at our record and how we play, I think it's Jorginho and Matteo that make it work. So as long as he can stay healthy, I think we'll be fine on Sunday.
Love it. All right. Well, we've got I guess we could do, get ready for a big week ahead. I like Europa League, aka I like Europe that we're in it. Obviously, it's kind of the B competition, but it's still at least fun to get out, and I don't know, the more you get to watch Chelsea, the better. I mean, does that seem like a pretty easy thing to all agree on unanimously?
Yes.
Chidge, you obviously love your European nights at home.
Yeah, I do. I mean, when you've watched Chelsea for as long as I have, and you never got into Europe ever, they're all to be savoured and not to be sniffed at. They're special nights. So I'm really looking forward to Thursday. Plus the fact, I mean, in a funny old sense, I actually find it quite hard to get to, Tuesday and Wednesday night games these days. So actually, the fact that we're in the Europa League has played right into my hands because I'm always in London from Thursday to Sunday. So I'm going to get all of them in. So I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm so happy for you, Chich.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to rub it in, boys.
What's your prediction, Chich, if you had to sign yourself up for more punishment?
What, for the Vidi game or the Southampton game or both?
Just the Vidi.
Vidi, I think 3-0.
Love it. Dan, what about you?
That was what I had written down here. I could take a photo of proof later, but no, 3-0.
Proof of life, Dan.
Proof of it was. I think Chidge is as smart as he is good looking, and it's a great prediction.
Suck up, Nick. Your turn.
I'm going 4-1.
All right, I'm gonna go. Or Mike, you're up.
4-0.
I'm gonna go 2-0. Keep it tight. Someone's got to bring a little bit of balance in logic. We can't all be passionate Chelsea fans, can we? What's the fun in that?
Sure.
It was a joke.
That should be the tagline of our podcast.
We are not passionate fans. Please see example B.
We will put you to sleep. It's bedtime.
All right. Well, that's going to go ahead and wrap us up again. Chidge.
You're the man.
The Podfather. Friend, thank you again.
Absolute pleasure, boys. Sorry it's been so long. As in for me being on the podcast, not for me rambling on tonight. I'm never apologising for that.
It's what we signed up for. We knew getting into it. We loved every minute of it, and I'm sure our listeners will as well. All right, but anyways, we are done for the week. We will be back most likely after Saints on the weekend, as we always do. But until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.